Target transitions are one of those places where, me personally, I never stop working on these in my own training because they will save you the most amount of time, or they will cost you a lot of time on a big course of fire or a drill for that matter. If the drill requires more than one target, then target transitions definitely come into play. And more specifically, like the time it takes for the gun to go from target to target not only needs to be really fast, but it also needs to be very, very precise. Me personally, when I look at target transitions, I'm looking for very, very, not only fast transitions, but I want the gun, or I want the dot to come to exactly where I'm looking on the next target. So I want, my index to be very, very good, and I want the gun to come exactly to where I'm looking. And where this will come into play is when you start setting things up with like no shoots or swingers, things like that. The harder the transitions get in terms of, target level of difficulty, the more this stuff will matter a lot. Like, you don't want to be, transitioning to a target and then having to kind of correct and over aim because the gun landed in the wrong spot because you weren't looking there, or the way that the gun arrived on the target just really wasn't suitable to shoot that target fast and accurate. So one really quick awareness drill that I try to show people in every class is basically what I've got set up behind me here. 2 targets is all you're gonna need for this. You'll load the gun, remove the magazine, point the gun at the first target, hit your shot timer. As soon as you hear the beep, you'll press the trigger and then transition to the second target and press the trigger. And since there's not ammunition on the second round, what you'll see, hopefully, is you'll be able to be way more aware of how your gun arrives on the next target. A couple things that kind of like keys to success here: trigger break exit. So as soon as you break the trigger, like, that is your cue to race your eyes to the next target, not just the next target, to a very specific place where you want the gun to show up on the next target. And then second, kind of like what I just talked about there, is looking to a specific spot on the next target. Again, it's not just about shooting open targets. Like, if you had a, partial target at 20, you would want to look to a very specific place where you would want to deliver bullets. So in my opinion, it's like every single target, I'm trying to look to a very specific spot, and this is going to help me get the gun to not only index appropriately, but like come to the spot that I'm looking at very, very quickly and precisely. So I'll go ahead and show you guys a couple different iterations here. And what you'll notice is if I do something like stare at the dot, if I stare at the dot, usually the dot returns straight back down to the spot that I'm looking at, and then I push the gun over to the next target, and it really doesn't land precisely. The next thing that people tend to do is they'll want to do something like push on the gun. And when you push on the gun, what you'll notice is the gun never really comes to a complete stop on the next target, or you have to really like wait for the gun to come to a complete stop on the next target. So ideally what you would want to see is like you press the trigger, the gun lifts, and by the time you press the trigger and the gun is starting to lift, your eyes are already on the next target, and you're basically waiting for the gun to show up on the next target. And as soon as you see the appropriate level of confirmation, in my case here, these 2 open targets at like 10 yards, I'm just looking for a color near the spot that I'm looking, and that would be a measure of success. Some ways that you can kind of go about trying to diagnose what's actually happening here: well, if you're shoving on the gun, you'll see the gun kind of arrive all kinds of erratic. Like, it won't just come to the spot that you're looking. If you're staring at the dot, you'll most likely see the gun track up, back down, and then over to the next target. Or if you do something like catch the dot with your attention maybe a little bit too soon, or you start looking at the dot like as it's coming into the target, it'll just kind of streak through the target instead of coming through and landing exactly where you want. So hopefully this drill helps you guys out. Again, it's something super simple to set up and a really good way to be aware of the things that you're doing in transitions.